What's going on, everybody? This is Tyrell from the Nosebleed Show. Again, I want to say thank you to everybody who watched the latest videos, for subscribing and liking and sharing. Much appreciated. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to the All Grind Sports podcast. Amazing show. Go check them out. Go subscribe to them. Go subscribe to my boy Marv at No Big Deal Podcast, and go subscribe to Raider Ragu on the They Follow from Burners channel as well. So I want to give that quick shout out to my boys. And today we're going to actually talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know, right? Cleveland Browns fan talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. But in a sense of, I think the Steelers and the Cleveland Browns are in two very similar situations when it comes to their coaching. And why do I say that? Well, for the Browns, as I ranted on last week, the Browns are very simple. They're keeping Stefanski long term because this organization has known inconsistency after inconsistency. And Haslam's goal is to keep consistent personnel in the locker room, whether in the locker room, in the building, whatever you want to call it. Whether I disagree with it or not, he owns the team. That's the goal. That's why Barry is still there. That's why Stefanski is still there. And a part of that is because when you have stability in an organization and having guys run the organization in a similar fashion, there's not a lot of turnover, there's not a lot of change that usually leads to winning. The Pittsburgh Steelers is very well known of that. Now, while the Cleveland Browns have hired coach after coach after coach after coach since 1999, the Pittsburgh Steelers have only had three since 1969. Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin. And today, this is about Mike Tomlin. This is about the Pittsburgh Steelers and about the Cleveland Browns and how right now they're kind of the same in two different ways. What do I mean by that? Again, consistency. The Pittsburgh Steelers is a high class of consistency. There's no other team in the league in that same time frame. Heck, since 1995, if you want to include the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Carolina Panthers. We can go 2002 if you want to include the Houston Texans. There has not been an organization that can sit back and say they've had three head coaches. Three. And if you go 95, 2002, two head coaches in that time frame. There's not an organization. So an organization and the Rooney family that is used to keeping a consistent head coach, keeping a consistent department, whether it's scouting, whether it's being the general manager, which is usually a Rooney, or the head coach. Chuck Noll was able to retire. Bill Cowher, able to retire. So really, when is the last time the Pittsburgh Steelers has fired a head coach? 1968? These guys were able to retire. And Tomlin is in that similar position in the sense of, I think they're waiting for him to retire. But like I said, the Browns and Steelers are in the same boat as far as consistency. The Browns are trying to stay consistent by keeping Stefanski and Barry. The Pittsburgh Steelers are trying to keep the consistency going. See, I didn't understand why a lot of Pittsburgh Steelers fans were adamant about firing Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin is one of the more respected head coaches in the league. He's one of the more respected men in the entire league. Players, both current and former, majority of them speak very highly of Mike Tomlin, about his coaching, about his character, and about his standards. A lot of players, whether it's past or new. Okay? Consistency. That's what the Steelers are trying to keep. That's what the Steelers are trying to keep, is a standard they have set since 1969. And with good measure, it makes sense. It's won them 6 Super Bowls. It's gotten them to multiple AFC championship games. It has made them one of the most respected and well-known brands in the entire world across all sports. But just as I complained about how it is time for the Browns to move on from Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry. It is time for the Pittsburgh Steelers to move on from Mike Tomlin. Now, Steelers fans, don't get offended because, oh, here's a Browns fan trying to talk about Steelers business. But let's talk about this for a moment, right? The Pittsburgh Steelers, throughout my entire lifetime, and still have, whatever you want to call it, has completely dominated the Cleveland Browns and all aspects of the game. Matter of fact, the Browns have not won in Pittsburgh in a regular season game since 2003. The NFL Network didn't exist at that time. There was no NFL Network. That should tell you how long ago it's been since we won in Pittsburgh in a regular season game. But notice how I say regular season game, because there's one anomaly, and that's that playoff game. See, Tomlin hasn't won a playoff game since 2016, since they reached the AFC Championship to play the New England Patriots. And Tomlin's 8-11 record in the playoffs should be alarming for a team and an organization that has a gold standard at winning championships. The Browns are trying to get to that standard. The Browns have a lot of talent, but they can't get there because of the coaching. And Pittsburgh's in a sense of, there's not really a lot of talent per se. And I'm not saying they have bad players, but it's this revolving door of mediocrity. It's just, it's not bad, but it's not great. It's fine. It's okay. It's like eating a burger at Burger King or eating a burger at Wendy's. Like, there's better options. But this is fine. So we keep going back to it. And that's what the Steelers are doing. We keep going back to it. It's worked for us for so long. Why would we break that cycle? Why would we continue to break that cycle? Just the same way the Browns. The way we used to do it does not work. Why would we want to restart that cycle? So we have to stay consistent, and we have to stay consistent. But when you're trying to stay consistent, or trying to keep that consistency, trying to keep a tradition while trying to establish a tradition, what happens is that sometimes you got the wrong person to do both of those objective goals. For the Cleveland Browns, it's Kevin Stefanski, it's Andrew Berry, it's Paul shitty-ass DePodesta. Trying to keep DePodesta's been there since 2016. Trying to establish a standard of not firing guys, trying to establish a standard of no turmoil or little to no turmoil inside the organization by keeping the lips loose. And in a lot of sense, since the Stefanski era, the Browns have been trying to emulate the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it makes sense because Jimmy Haslam did at one point, prior to purchasing the Cleveland Browns, did own 10% of the Pittsburgh Steelers before he gave up those shares to purchase the Cleveland Browns. And he has been trying to run it like that and a little bit of cowboyish since. The lack of loose lips, the tightness of, we're not going to listen to the fans, so we're going to do our thing because we run the football organization. The Pittsburgh Steelers do the same thing. Trying to establish a consistency with the wrong people is the same equivalent as the Pittsburgh Steelers trying to keep the consistency with the wrong person. Now, I'm not discrediting Mike Tomlin's career. I think he's one of the best head coaches to ever coach this game. He's one of the most respected people to coach this game. But sometimes, Father Time comes, not sometimes, every time. Father Time does come. And I think Father Time has reached Tomlin, at least with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Haven't won a playoff game in 8-9 years. 8-11 in the playoffs. He does have the Super Bowl. But you have a loss against the Ravens. You have a playoff loss against the Cleveland Browns, of all teams. A team which, by the way, you have a 14-5-1 record since 2015. Since 2015. And you're and that's in regular season play. And you're 1-5 against the Cleveland Browns when you travel to Cleveland. So you're not even playing good in Cleveland no more. You're 1-5 since 2018. No, excuse me, since 2019. You're 1-5 in Cleveland. So when I see Pittsburgh Steelers talking about they got to fire Tomlin, go get another guy, go get a new guy, go get a new guy. As a Browns fan who's dealt with mediocrity, not even mediocrity. That's a compliment. Who's dealt with pure crap, who's dealt with consistent losing, who's dealt with consistent turmoil, who's dealt with, quite frankly, turnover after turnover after turnover. Outside these last 5 years, who's dealt with quarterback after quarterback after quarterback after quarterback after quarterback, general manager after general manager, hell, owner after owner after owner. We've had 3 since 1999. You kind of look at the Pittsburgh Steelers and you kind of envy them. Whether Browns fans want to admit it or not, whether they want to openly admit it or behind closed doors, I think most Browns fans envy how the Pittsburgh Steelers run their organization. Damn it, they have 6 Super Bowls. We haven't won a championship since 1964. And yes, NFL championships count because the Super Bowl is the NFL championship. So when you look at an organization, that runs like that, when you look at an organization that is consistent, and you're trying to emulate that consistency in your building with the fan base, we're looking at Steelers fans and going, why are you complaining about Tomlin? Do you know we would trade major assets to you guys to bring Tomlin to be our head coach? This is facts. These are conversations we have had, whether it's publicly or behind closed doors. Man, I trade anything to get Tomlin in the Browns gear. Man, Tomlin would come around and change everything in his organization. So we look at that and go, why are y'all complaining? And I try to give Tomlin the benefit of the doubt because, hey, the defense, and I get it. Again, Steelers fans, I get it. In a sense of there has been a standard and a structure for generations. Not just one generation, not just 2 generations. We're talking about 3, 4, 5 generations. Steel curtain defense, no matter what iteration it is. And let's be honest here, the Steelers is not the same steel curtain defense. And they haven't been for years. They haven't been for a decade, for real. I would say the last great Steeler defense was that 2018. Where everybody say those are Bill Cowher boys. And give Tomlin his credit. Whether they're Bill Cowher boys or not, he still coached them to a Super Bowl. Matter of fact, he coached them to another Super Bowl. Coached one as a win, coached one as a loss. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, that 2008-2009 defense don't get talked about because Larry Fitzgerald single-handedly shut that down. They shut Larry and win that Super Bowl. Hey, we're talking about top 5, top 10 greatest defenses of all time. Bill Cowher boys or not, Tomlin coached that team. Tomlin could have blundered that Super Bowl as well. Almost did. But looking at what the Steelers are now, Browns fan or not, as a football fan, it's not the same. It's not the same aura. It's not the same fear. It's not the same reverence as it once was as I was growing up. Regardless of how I feel personally about the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Steelers were feared. Whether it was the running game, whether it was the defense, and I know it's a lot of Pittsburgh Steelers fans out here. I have slowly watched the standard of the Pittsburgh Steelers dip. And I'm not saying all of them, because there are some guys, shout out to my boy Marv, who is like, F all that, this is the standard, this has always been the standard, and Tomlin gotta go. And there are a lot of Pittsburgh fans that are like that, like, hey, Tomlin's gotta go, because a lot of Pittsburgh Steelers fans are realizing we're lowering our standard to keep our head coach. We're lowering ourselves. At one point, they were trying to sell us. I don't care what y'all say. I don't care what y'all say. You can deny it to you blue in the face. I've seen it. I heard the Discord, all that. You guys were trying to sell us Kenny Pickett. You were trying to sell us Kenny Pickett. Don't deny it. It's okay. It's okay. Us Browns fans have tried to sell a lot of quarterbacks. We've tried. Hey, RG3 might work. Hey, look at Brian Hoyer. Brian Hoyer. Oh, Johnny Manziel, come on and save us. Come on, Johnny. So it's okay. It's okay if you get it wrong. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I get it. I understand. Just accept and own up that you tried to sell us Kenny Pickett, as I called him a worse version of Cody Kessler. Browns fans, you know who the hell I'm talking about. Maybe some Jaguar fans might know what I'm talking about. But trying to sell us Kenny Pickett, admit that you were wrong. It's okay. But that's what I'm talking about. You telling me Steelers fans from 10, 15 years ago is going to sell you Kenny Pickett? Whether they have Roethlisberger or not? Hell no. They going to try to sell this defense that has been out here over the last 5 years? Hell no. They can't even sell us the defense. They have to sell us TJ Watt. And I'm sorry, but down here, I ain't see him at all. Steelers fans, you try to talk about Myles Garrett, but throw my glasses back on. I ain't see him at all. Not in that playoff game. I did see Myles Garrett in his playoff games. But TJ Watt, I ain't see him. And that's no disrespect, but he ain't show up. Just like Minkah Fitzpatrick likes to be completely inconsistent. The only consistent defensive player they really got is Joey Porter Jr. That's it. That's it. And Cameron Hayward. Let me not disrespect Cameron Hayward. But he's older. He's been in the league since 2010, 2011. He's older. He's older. But he's still consistent. TJ Watt, some days he's a dominant force. And other days it's like, whoa, where you go? Sorry, but you're not going to convince me TJ Watt better than JJ Watt. You're not. I've never seen JJ Watt disappear. But I've seen TJ Watt disappear multiple times in multiple years. But it's the fact that he's naturally known. So Steelers fans had to try to sell us. And with good cause, I'm not saying that he's a bad player. He's an exceptional, great player. But Steelers fans, you know that y'all expect Joey Porter Sr. to disappear like that? Y'all think Harrison gonna disappear like that? Y'all expect Polamalu to play safety the way Minkah Fitzpatrick plays safety for y'all team? That's what I'm talking about. The standard is starting to slowly dip. It's like the standard's dipping, but at the same time, it's like you're trying to cling on to what the standard used to be. But because you have to support your current team, it's like, I'm trying to hang on. I'm going down. But that's what the Browns are too. We're trying to hang on to some winning shit. Our standard is is vocabularized differently, but it's kind of the same. Like, our standard was so damn low. Deshaun Watson threw for 165 yards, and we said, good game, Deshaun. Yeah! Deshaun Watson had a good game. He threw for 165 yards. What you mean he had a good game? What? Hey, they stopped the run today. Good game. What? They also gave up 5.2 yards per carry, but hey, they held him under 100 yards. Yeah, that's because that team didn't run that much. It's like we're trying to cling on to shit that's good. We're trying to cling on things that's good. What we think is good. You guys are trying to cling on to tradition. So I do think that the Browns and the Steelers are kind of in this weird, like, same standpoint in a sense of, again, establishing tradition, trying to keep a tradition. And what that has caused for the Browns, and as far as trying to establish a tradition with the wrong person, All this cost the Browns to do is be inconsistent. 11-5, 8-9, 7-10, then 11-6, or was it 12-5, 1 or 2, and then 3-14. Winning season, lose, win, lose. Inconsistent. As far as where you want to go, the losing part, they got that consistency down pat, boy, I tell you. But the Steelers, Tomlin hasn't had a losing season at all. Why would you let go of Mike Tomlin? And then you remember the Steelers have lost 8 playoff games in a row. And matter of fact, this year, they lost their last 5. Let's go back to 2020. 11-0 to start the season. Everybody screaming world champions. 11-0. And you guys won the division off of technicality. You got, well, not let me rephrase that. Not technicality. You guys earned the division by beating the Colts when we couldn't beat the Jets the same week. And we had to beat y'all to get into the playoffs. But you guys finished 12-4 that season. And including the playoff game, from an 11-0 start to a 1-5 finish, is absurd. Especially for what the Steelers used to stand for. The Steelers' name is not the same. Matter of fact, I'm seeing it across multiple fan bases, whether it's in the AFC North or just NFL fans in general. The Steelers are actually starting to become a laughing stock. The Steelers is actually starting to become a team that you kind of go, oh, okay, they had a good start. All right, it'll bottom out at the end. We ain't worried about them. We not worried about the Steelers. And think about some of those other playoff wins that y'all did have. Chris Boswell botches the field goal. Vontaze Burfict is a complete moron. You guys almost lost to Cincinnati in 2015. Let's not forget that. You guys lost to Jacksonville twice. Was it 2 times? I know y'all had the one. Y'all had the one for sure. Y'all had the one for sure where y'all was supposed to beat them. Jacksonville had no sense at all, going to that AFC Championship game. You got Ben Roethlisberger last game. Dud. That Kansas City game, y'all walked in there knowing y'all shouldn't have won. Knowing y'all didn't win that game. Y'all wasn't going to win that game at all. Knowing. And that's what the Steelers have become. Kind of in the same, but the Browns are a laughing stock because they always lose. You guys are in the laughing stock because, hey, they're going to get a winning season, but nobody cares. Ha, 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 look at them, good start. Doesn't matter, ha, 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 frauds. So, I don't know what's worse. Being a fan of a team that consistently loses, and you know before this season starts there's a misery, even when you get your hopes up, there's misery coming, or knowing that your team is good enough to compete for a playoff position, but not good enough to even win a playoff game. That's difficult. And the discourse of Tomlin being the Doc Rivers NFL is starting to make sense. And I know there's conversations within Steelers circles amongst the fans, amongst the national media is finally starting to bring this up. But like again, I say, shout out to my boy Marv. He warned me about this a few years ago. And I couldn't comprehend because of the enviness I have of the Pittsburgh Steelers and how their organization is ran. Because you deal with so much losing. You're like, hey, can we compete? Can we compete for a playoff? Hey, we in the playoffs, cool. But I don't know how much misery I could take to even give yourself that false hope of, hey, there's a chance. To now is like, you guys are doing all this for what? Maybe there is time for a change in Pittsburgh. There's time for a change in Cleveland. But they're not changing because they're trying to establish a tradition. They're trying to establish, let's be frank here, the Pittsburgh Steelers way. And the Steelers are trying to hold on to the Pittsburgh Steelers way. Thank you guys for watching. Please share, like, comment, and subscribe. Please follow us on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Follow the group page on Facebook. Join that. And we're going to get that popping. And we also have an Instagram page as well. And we're going to get that going too. And also follow us on Blue Sky. All the links to the social medias will be down below. Peace out.